Welcome, everyone, to um, our continuation of Friday sessions. Uh, it's kind of hard to believe how long we've been going on, and it is not only, an honor and a true sort of, you know, I want to say, acknowledgement of Mary Jane and myself, but also just a heartfelt feeling of gratitude to all of you for coming, when you can and really warms our hearts. So welcome everyone. I am Jan Jeremias, and for the last number of years, I've been very involved in holistic health and wellness. I support both people and their pets in living longer, fuller, and more connected lives. My passion is helping others to see the whole picture of their well-being, physical, mental, and emotional, and gently translating that into a simple, meaningful blueprint for everyday health. I feel that people thrive in community, connection, and kindness, and share that passion with my dear friend and collaborator, Mary Jane McQueen. And together we believe in bringing more kindness into the world, one creative moment, one conscious breath, and one heartfelt conversation at a time. So, a heartfelt thank you to Mary Jane for joining me on this path, and to each of you for showing up each week with open hearts and open minds and just, with your wisdom. I know that I do, and Mary Jane does too. We really appreciate you. So, Mary Jane, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Jan. Yeah, definitely. We definitely welcome you and appreciate the many blessings that you bring with you when you join us. As Jan said, when you can, and it's just a lovely community to be in and a supportive community to be in. Um, for purposes of recording, I am Mary J. McQueen, and I'll say a seasoned graphic designer. I don't know which one I am. Maybe it's salty or peppery. I'm not sure which, but a graphic designer and a creative of the MJ McQueen Creative Studio. And of course, I am also co-founder of Spirit Board Imaginings alongside of my beloved friend Jan. Um, it's really in the space that I love to, um, I guess co-create a space of intentional conversations and meditative experiences, really that invite you to soften and slow down and just reconnect to yourself. Um, we hope that this is a space of presence and a compassion and curiosity and where we bring mindfulness, breath, energy awareness, and creative reflection together in a way that nurtures and to support self-care, kindness and as we go on this journey of inner transformation. And as always, as you know, there's nothing you need to do or achieve here and really an only invitation to arrive as you are in this moment. And thank you, Jan, for being part of my journey as well. I will begin by offering a poem that I found this week. It's by Spirit of a Hippie. That this is I'm not sure of the lady's name, but that's the group. If you can find them on Facebook, etc. And the title is "There is Wisdom in Pausing." And the poem reads like this: There comes a point when the world feels too heavy. The headlines, the scrolling, the quiet ache of trying to keep up with a world that never stops. We carry it all without noticing the weight, the stories, the sorrows, the constant pulse of urgency. But the body knows when the heart is full. It begins to ache for stillness. Switching off is not indifference. It's an act of care, a soft refusal to be endlessly available to the steady hum of the world. It is the slow exhale after too many held breaths, the gentle turning inward to the steadiness of our own pulse. We are not made to hold it all. We need to rest. There is wisdom in pausing, in letting the world go on for a while without us. And in that quiet, when the light softens, when the breath deepens, and when the hands finally unclench, something tender returns. A remembering, a small, steady peace. The knowing that we are still here and that this, for now, is enough.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Wonderful. So we welcome you. We welcome you to this moment just as it is. A space to arrive, to breathe, and to listen inwardly. In our daily lives, reactions can happen quickly, often before we've had a chance to fully notice what we're thinking or feeling. This experience is an invitation to explore a different way of relating to these moments. Through mindfulness and present moment awareness, we begin to recognize our patterns of reactivity and bring attention to what is unfolding in real time. Together, we will look at the role of the pause, not as something we force, but as something we begin to notice and allow. Research and practice both show that even a brief moment of awareness can help regulate the nervous system, creating just enough space to interrupt automatic responses. And within this space, we are better able to observe our thoughts, emotions, and impulses without immediately acting on them. This shift in awareness changes how we experience ourselves and our interactions with others. Rather than being driven by habit or conditioned responses, we begin to access the ability to respond with greater clarity, steadiness, and intention. Over time, this strengthens emotional regulation, supports more thoughtful communication, and allows for choices that feel more aligned with who we are. In this hour together, we will explore this perspective through reflection and conversation, gently bringing awareness to the moments where reaction arises and considering what becomes possible when even a few conscious breaths create space. This is an invitation to begin seeing the pause differently, not as a delay, but as a doorway to awareness, a doorway to choice, a doorway to responding rather than reacting.
This is quite the topic today, isn't it, Jan? Because it's it's not so easy some days to not react because that's our human nature, right? Is to respond or react immediately. And so, they're, in good practice, of course, it's just it's always good to take that pause um to reflect on what it is and what it is that may have be triggering that reactivity or response, and thinking of, from heart, what's the way to respond here, and do I need to respond here? Because sometimes it's that too, right? The reactivity can be doing nothing at all. So it's just a beautiful topic of really calling to mind, um, of being aware in the present moment, and giving yourself the opportunity for pause when it's needed.
Yeah, I think that what I find is sometimes, that reaction is so fast,
Yes.
like that, it's not it happens before we even take a breath.
Hmm.
And so what I find is so much of the time is more about afterwards. It's like, if I do, is kind of catching myself so that it doesn't snowball or it doesn't go on and on.
Yes.
And I just kind of, maybe have that initial reaction, but then you're like, whoa, like you pull back the reins on a horse. You're like, okay, just steady here, rein it in, literally. And,
Hmm.
that pause then can happen. And then you can kind of discern and decide, whether another response is warranted or whether, um, at this point, silence might be better, or maybe acknowledging what you said and like even saying, oh, I reacted too quickly about that, or I reacted, give me a moment or something to acknowledge that, what you said. But I find that sometimes it's just so immediate that, and then there are situations where you get to like, maybe you're in conversation or maybe it's a group of people and you do have the moment to within yourself go and take a few conscious breaths and just be with it.
Yeah, that's true. It is. I know when we were, when we were discussing the topic, it was interesting because, and with the, some of the research they were doing is like over and over again, it was like, that they were speaking to the articles, were speaking to that, you know, by taking the pause, it can interrupt the automatic reactions. I guess it's for me, it's just about, sometimes we're human beings, so that's going
Mhm.
to be. Automatic reactions are not the easiest to overcome because that's our fight or flight sort of mechanism. But I loved how time and again they were saying in the articles that, really that pausing can interrupt those automatic reactions just to sort of re-regulate the emotions as they may be at whatever state we're in at the same time. So like maybe the awareness is that once we feel something is triggering us, rather than responding first, we breathe first. Maybe that would be a
Mhm.
good step.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that a lot also. It's just that maybe it is just it is that I think active action or the active participation in a breath or three
Yeah.
breaths or five breaths to give you and allow yourself that little bit of breathing room,
Literally.
literally, breathing room to be able to then decide. And one is, to first observe and to become aware of what's going on within you, the sensations, the feelings, the physical sensations, what is coming up, and
Yes.
then moving forward from there. Um, and realizing, I think in that space comes the recognition of, oh, that's triggering me, and maybe even a moment of clarity is like where it comes from or whatever. Not that it's necessary, but maybe it's like, oh, okay, that's an old pattern. You don't have to go back to so much, about what it was, but that's something old that's now resurfacing for me.
Yeah, well, that's true, right? Because often, it's when our fastest, or at least I can speak from my own experience, when I react the fastest, and maybe not in the way that would be appropriate, or may have needed some further reflection.
Hmm.
It's usually, when something that's a, response to something that's triggered from something that's happened in the past. But even more reason, I mean, that's definitely something in the last few years I've definitely been sort of reflecting on, and taking up the challenge of taking a pause before I speak occasionally, because yes, sometimes the best words don't come out when we're reacting in that space without reflection. So it's an interesting scenario for sure.
Hmm. And I think one of the things I really like is the fact that it's a learned practice.
Yes.
You can practice pausing, throughout your day and and I don't like to say like, labeling things as, but having it be something that that becomes second nature in the fact that you go to it.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, practicing it throughout your day, um, in little moments, like, pause moments, where you sit there and you're like, okay, well, let me do this and then take a pause. Uh, and let me pause between meetings. Let me pause, between tasks. Let me, pause throughout my day and doing that so that basically, and I don't like to label it as you get good at it, but becomes like part of your normal everyday life.
It's like
So it's not
second nature, right?
nature, it is second nature. And it's not like, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, that was like, you know, that was a situation I could have used a pause kind of thing, or, like it happens and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have paused, which I do
Yes.
anyway. But, it's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I should have paused for that one.
Well, that's the challenge, right? And that's the thing that I've definitely been more aware of in the past few years is reflecting on that. It's like, oh, you know, hopefully considering that before I actually react. But yes, it's true. It's like, oh, maybe I should have taken a moment to pause. So, being aware that like now it's kind of turned around where I say, oh, maybe now's the time I should take a pause.
Was right, exactly, exactly. And I think that it's so interesting because as I was doing research for the articles, you know how they make like t-shirts and everything for everyone. They
Yes.
had ones where they were just like had the pause button, like if you were watching a video, that were the two dashes, and then it just said pause. And I thought that's so funny. Like I would like that's like my kind of humor that
Yeah.
I would like, like I was like, oh
I love it actually. It's kind of cool.
yeah, I was like, oh, pause.
Maybe, that seems
Seamus,
like a good one that would work for Spirit Born Imaginings, right?
it
Pause.
would pause.
Seamus, please.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, and yeah, lovely topic. And yeah, it reminds me again of just Breath is the Bridge, that Osho article, like it's coming up again because it's central to kind of what you're talking about today. Really, it's about like the power of just pause and the just what you've been speaking about. It's an experience. You can't put it into words, but you just feel it and oh, yeah, and you get curious with when you kind of have the built into your practice, the discipline of pausing automatically, you experience something that you just know is right, and it's immediately paying back. So I think that's the power of this practice, is that when you kind of practice more, it becomes an automatic practice, and you experience something different that only you know how it feels from your inside out when you successfully manage to do that and engage in a situation in a way that serves you better and serves the other person better. And that's the power of practice and engaging better with self and engaging better with other people. And one of the other words you used, John, I think that struck me like was the doorway, like, and it comes back to kind of noticing and pausing and choice. And then the doorway appears, and you've got the choice to walk through the doorway. And the idea of different dimensions of space came to mind. So we're so um, used to living, and the poem speaks to this as well, living in a very busy, overwhelming external world. That space is kind of so shallow, so overwhelming, and it's so challenging basically to operate in that space on the outside all the time. And I think that's many people's lived experience. But another dimension of space, and this is what Osho talks about in Breath is a Bridge as well, is when you have, and this is back to experience, when you choose to pause, to create a space, there is no time, or at least you immediately begin to actually um, create less space for past rumination and future planning. And simply that power of pause is a space where you eliminate any thought of past or future thoughts that kind of are the noise, that are the shallow kind of interference that results in overwhelm and that results in over planning and overthinking and all sorts. And that is an immediate payback on the power of pause, in that when you are successful in simply being present in the current moment, there is no space for past or future. There's just space for now. And I think that kind of what struck me, and that is the opportunity in the doorway, is it's a deep space within ourselves that feels so different from the shallow space of outside ourselves and dealing with the kind of the overwhelm and the business and the discomfort. And I think that's what struck me as you were speaking, and the poem and what you described afterwards, Jan, was the doorway to that deeper sense of calm and comfort within. And that's the experiential nature of this that kind of brings us back to actually, experiencing the power of pause in that moment. That what brings us back to practicing more and more and spending more time in that space, that deep space. And because there's a beautiful comfort in that, in feeling this just feels good in comparison to the space it was just in, which is frustration and anger, maybe, and busyness and stress. And there's an invitation, I think, Brett, as the bridge from the external busy world into this kind of real deep sense of I'm in a different space, completely different dimension of space. And I think that is a central theme of, what's coming through the poem, what's coming through in our conversation so far, is our ability to actually choose and be in this deeper, comfortable space. And as Breeder would often say, it's so accessible, it's there, it's ready for us. All we've got to do is choose to kind of open the door and walk through and feel and experience what it feels like to be in that space, like that different dimension of deep, comfortable space compared to the kind of the shallow space that we often find ourselves in.
Thank you, Seamus. Well, first of all, I love the fact that you used the word depth, because I think there is a depth to it. And it just reminded me of, that depth is, there is this presence in that depth where it is a choice point. And the door, which, you can decide whether you want to walk through the door or whether right now you want to keep the door closed. Not in a negative way, but just that because you need more space or you need to reflect a little bit more. Yes, and I totally smiled and laughed. Al, thank you for the door emoji. Really cracked me up. So, but yeah, it was this feeling of like maybe at some point you sit there and say, okay, well, now, right now, am I ready to walk through this door? But that's also a conscious choice, obviously. And it's like, it's a choice not of running away. It's a choice of discernment and honoring of yourself. And so there's like this, oh, okay, for right now, and I think also what I started to think about is like when you're in that space and you've taken a few breaths and maybe you've calmed yourself down and you come to a little bit more of a place of balance, um, of harmony, and you sit there and you're like, okay, what would be, and then like thinking to myself, like, what questions are pertinent to ask in that space? And I think based on that article or that podcast that I'd shared with you, Seamus, and I was talking to Mary Jane and Darlene about it yesterday, with Shy Held, and my phrase now is, yeah, like what would love look like here? Like what would love look like in this situation? And maybe it is not saying anything. Maybe it's just being holding space for somebody or just allowing them to talk. And maybe it's, love looks like, standing up for yourself in a certain circumstance. But, it was just on my mind and has been on my mind over the past few weeks, as with the state of the world and just saying, okay, well, in these situations, as opposed to reacting, which it's so easy to do, in some ways, obviously. In a lot of ways, it is. Most ways, it's not. Um, And what do you do? And I think breath is a really important avenue to be able to expend some of that energy because I think it is almost like this feeling of like energy that needs to come out. But if you can focus on your breath and the breath, then the energy goes to the breath. And I find that then it doesn't feel so trapped, like, like that volcano that's waiting to erupt. You get to direct it somewhere. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have a meltdown
Yep. That is certainly true.
because that's what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Is it rather than the explosion, the melting happens. The melting
Yeah.
happens inside, right? And it's like, okay, the tension. But I was just thinking, it was just like because it's like being conscious breath. Because I mean, what happens when we're in a state of reactivity? Either our breath is extremely fast and shallow, or we're holding it, depending on
Mhm.
the situation. And neither one of those scenarios is a very healthy option. So just taking a moment of mindfulness, it doesn't even have to be for long, but just taking that simple breath and reconnecting to that space is just thank you, Jan. Uh, is is uh is a really great way to just reconnect to what it is, reflecting on what it is like, what is triggering me here? Why am I reacting or feeling like I want to react in this way? And taking that pause. Um, and like I said, it doesn't have to be for long. A single breath doesn't take very long, really, in the scheme of things, but just really taking that moment to pause and perhaps consider the options, shall we say?
hmm No, I love that. Consider the options. And I think the whole practice of mindfulness or being present is really just doing that.
Hmm.
It's just allowing yourself the space to be present with whatever it is, with whatever is happening. Um, it's not, it really is this practice of total acceptance of like, this is how I feel. These are the sensations I feel. This is where I feel it in my body. These are the thoughts I'm having. Not trying to deny anything and to push it away, but to allow it to be there. And it's an active allowing, just like I was thinking about you know, the fact that it's an active pausing.
Hmm.
I think we think of, in our, most or me even, the word pause almost feels like stopping. And so, which it is, but it's like, okay, I'm pausing.
Really
Like everything
temporary.
is supposed to stop and it's not active, but really it's a very active pausing.
Yes.
And in that pause, there's obviously a lot of action, like a lot happening. It's
Yeah,
not,
absolutely.
it's not necessarily, it's not emptiness.
Yeah. I love it. She was put two really valid things in the chat, and I just want to share here. It is as a breath is like opening a door to a lightning rod that helps diffuse and ground us in the moment and experience the comfort of that safe, comfortable space. That's very true. It's like coming back to your body and feeling safe in that space. So I love that. And the second one is pause is an important action. I love that because we don't often think of a pausing being action, but of course, as Jen, you were just sharing, there's many actions taking place within that pause. But I love that pause is an important action. That seems like it should be a meme. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah,
It should
no,
go with that T-shirt you were talking about.
yeah, no, it should. I think we might have to create them. But yeah, no, I think it is. And it is so contrary or like counter what we're trained in what we think of
Mm,
being, let's say, busy and productive. Pausing means you stop and you're not doing anything. It's like, okay, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to stop the movie. I'm going to, we pause. But it's not passive by any means. And that's another one. Pausing is not passive. I like that.
We could make a whole booklet of these.
It's a big, yeah, yeah. We could have a phrase on the front and a phrase on the back. See, we're set for our t-shirt business.
There you go.
Okay. Or mugs. Mugs are the other really great
Yeah.
thing. Thank you for the PL. But it's such an interesting way to perceive. And I love this idea that, after practice, I think many of us, or all of us on this anyway, have practiced meditation. And when I first learned meditation, it was kind of like, I think I've shared this, that the teacher who did my first meditation said, just don't think. Was what he said. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how do you not think? Like, does that ever happen?
I
Like,
think that's a physical impossibility for human
ability.
beings, is it not?
Yeah, is it not? Yeah. And I remember trying to sort of stop myself from thinking. That was like my objective when I first started meditating. I was like, okay, I'm just not, even if it's just for moments, I'm not going to think. And yes, there are fractions of seconds where you're just like your mind is empty. But then realizing it was so much more useful, not in trying, is the whole mindfulness application with like, could I be present with them and
Mm,
not attached to them? Could I notice them and observe what my thoughts were, what my feelings were, versus trying not to have any?
yes.
And that was a lot more. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, okay, well, I can do that. Like that was much more, in my success, very achieving oriented mind, that was much more achievable. Like I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. Um, and so that became much more my focus. And I think for most people, that is an amazing focus because I think we we don't, I mean, we have them, our thoughts or whatever, but how much time, I mean, for all of us, we do, but how much time do we actually sit and try to kind of like look and see what we're thinking or what we're feeling? Like, I don't know that a lot of people do that because I think people navigate the world just trying to get things done
Yes.
and having reactions and not understanding why they've reacted in a particular way.
Yes. Well, exactly. And it was just, was laughing to myself when you were talking about the yoga. Started telling you to not think. I'm like, the problem with that phrase is, especially when you're doing yoga or meditation thing, the more you're telling your mind not to think, the more your mind is thinking. So it's kind of counterintuitive. So it's like thinking, I love that thing. It was like, okay, well, like knowing that this is the nature of the human mind is for these thoughts to come, but not too attaching to them is a beautiful practice, and for sure.
Yeah, but
And
and
just
it
on that
was.
point,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead, James,
Yeah,
please.
sorry guys. Yeah, just on that point, like it brings me back to my heart mat practice and what because your mind will often wander and there's so much going on like we just talked about like we live in this busy external world and it's very hard to switch into that internal space. But what I've tried to do is actually develop a little small mantra that keeps my mind I suppose, focused on the whole space that I'm trying to get to without forcing. It's this balance between, not forcing, but allowing myself to kind of be with myself through the breath and execute and walk across that like bridge of breath is the bridge to, just being in that inner, deeper, comfortable space. And what I've been testing or trying, I suppose, is just on the in-breath, something like, when I gracefully choose integrating some of these important words when I gracefully choose to be kinder to myself or to cut myself some slack, just testing some phrases like that kind of invite myself in that space to quieten the thought of what happened yesterday or what I'm planning for tomorrow, but just to be in the present through a simple mantra like that. I think it can be helpful and it's worthwhile maybe trying. I found it very effective, basically, just to keep yourself focused on just being kind to yourself on the in-breath and to kind of just experience what it feels like to just use those words. I know it's kind of like, yeah, your mind is now busy with this mantra, but it's somehow just allowing it to kind of just permeate within yourself to open that door. And again, it comes with practice, and you'll find a way that, it works for you. I found a way, I think, that I've allowed it, or I've experienced a phrase or a mantra that kind of works for me. And again, that's the invitation out of this practice. I think when I share this practice with other people, it's just maybe try it and see how it works for you, or try different words. And then on the out breath, I will say to myself something like, I effortlessly am kinder to others. When, it just happens basically. So when I'm kinder to myself, it ripples out and I'm kinder to others. And again, that's an experiential thing of, just being comfortable in a space that you kind of intentionally create without forcing. And then just through practice, you figure out a way that just works best for you, that, you find you bridge that balance between not forcing and just experiencing the benefit of, something that that's keeping your mind as much as possible in the moment without forcing it to be there, I guess.
Yeah, one of the things that, as you were talking, Seamus, one of the things that came to me was the fact that when you take that pause, and even with the mantras or whatever, and then you said I think that one is that you've paused, you're one with yourself, you're expressing like, okay, whatever is going on within me, let me be kind to it. Let me show a little compassion for myself. And I think that in that space, you have this, my word for the year, you accept yourself, like you accept all that is within yourself. And that way, when you act going forward, you're acting from a place of integrity, of authenticity. And then, and that shines through. And I think in that place in general, I mean, I believe everybody is inherently kind. So I think you come out, like you move through the world with this. To me, the word is more integrated and, just more whole. And so you have connected in with, I think valuing yourself and what you feel is valuable. And that's where you act from, whatever your values are. And so, yeah, I love that. And I think for each one of us, it can be different. Seamus he does mantras. I did mantras for a very long time. Now I think I'm much more, for me, it's much more just allowing with whatever is going on to be there. And then, in that space of just once that happens, just sending compassion to myself. Or then maybe asking some questions of like I said, what would love look like here?
That's such a
It's
beautiful
whatever.
phrase.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
go
it's
ahead, James.
whatever. Yeah, it's whatever emerges in the moment. I think that and I think it's that it's been attuned to just what feels right. Like what do I need now in this moment? And it could be different words today than tomorrow. And that's what I've noticed myself, is that, what worked yesterday or the day before, those words just don't seem to work right now, and something else will just emerge. And that's part of the practice, just to be open to whatever is going to emerge in that moment. And I think that there's great power in just that. The openness of that is just, I'm going to be kind to myself. I'm going to be with whatever it is, and whatever will emerge will emerge. And that's an experience in itself, I guess, that we know that it's working, if you know to put it in those terms, of there's comfort in that, of, you're allowing yourself to just be attuned to whatever is emerging, whatever words feel right in that moment, I guess.
No, I love that. And I think because for many years, and this is what I tell a lot of my maybe because this is the way I navigated the world for, probably too many years to list, was, not necessarily asking myself how I felt and what I needed at all. It was much more about, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do right now. You're supposed to get up in the morning and I'm supposed to do this, and this before I go off to work or before I do this. And it was a lot less about, what did I actually need in that moment? Like what could I do? Where was I? how was I feeling, and what did I actually need in that moment? And I think that that is something that we're not necessarily trained to do in our very overproductive, sort of externally focused world. We're not really trained or ever taught that those are questions that we should be asking ourselves.
That's so true. It's a really valid point. I mean, we're, as creatures, we are definitely, definitely see a lot more. We're more focused on the external things that are happening around us. And it's true, it's a learned practice to bring in what it is that what we need in the moment from on a personal level internally, not all the external things that people or the world may tell us we need to do or have or say, but really just to see what it is we need from an internal perspective. And that's definitely, as we spoke to earlier, it's definitely a learned practice. It's a conscious choice, and being aware that that choice actually exists, because for some people, it I don't know that they may not have understood that that is a choice that they can make for themselves. And rule out the thing where the voices say that it's selfish, you shouldn't be doing things for yourself. But in order to continue to do things for others, we need to give back to ourselves to nurture our own well-being, whatever that looks like for you. So it's an interesting, we're so external focused, and now's the time to bring it back home. As I was sharing on the weekend, I seen it, it's like coming home to you, bringing it back to you, um, because that's how we grow as people, and then we're able to extend that to others. So I love this conversation is awesome.
Oh, thank you, Mary Jane. And I agree with you. And I think that, when we talk about it in this context, this idea of, pausing and, taking a moment to even, to see how you feel, or to, in a situation in your day, in the morning, whenever it is, or all of the above. Those are, they talk about micro moments, or, micro moments of pausing, but those are micro moments of self-care, of caring for yourself. Because it is, obviously, it's an acknowledgement of yourself and where you are and how you're feeling in a particular situation. And that's not, self-care practices and self-care moment, opportunities are great, where you do an hour practice and you practice, whatever it is you practice, meditation, mindfulness, yoga, qigong, whatever it is, getting outside in nature and exercising. I mean, those are all self-care and all really great. But I think those micro moments of pausing throughout the day are almost more beneficial, because they're in the moment. Like, they're in the moment practices. And that's when situations arise, right? In the moment. Like you're on a meeting and all of a sudden someone says something. And those things are not planned for, and you're like triggered, and you're like, or you're out and someone cuts you off on the highway, like, which never happens. Or
Sure.
right, or you have to wait online, or or you get, I have these conversations with my mother a lot, because she's very frustrated that when you call, they can never get a person. If you call, like, you're rerouted like 100 times, and you get like some sort of
Bot.
virtual voice bot that sits there and says, okay, and then none of the prompts fit, kind of thing. And so it's in those moments of like frustration or aggravation, or the fact that you've been on hold for 20 or 30 minutes, and and then all of a sudden it's like those moments are the moments that are practical moments. Those are life moments.
I'm
And
laughing. I laughed, Jen, when you said 20 or 30 minutes. It's like I'm laughing because that seems like a relatively short time.
yes, I know.
Having
I
been
was
on
thinking this.
hold for like 2 hours one time, I'm thinking 20 or 30 minutes seems relatively short.
Yeah,
I
no,
love
I
it.
agree with you.
I hear you. I get it.
Yeah, no, yes, exactly. And I've had those 2 hour ones too. So I've got. So Al, please.
Yeah, very interesting. You brought up the word P. So let me start with the power of all the P's. So peace, right? So it started with the pause. Pause words that we are pivoting into the possibility, another P, we are not passive but proactive. And
Mm,
we should set this as a priority. And this is a progress in our life when we are practicing our meditations and whatever that we are doing each day. So these are all the P's that I have for today. And this will give peace for our mind. Yeah. So this is the last P. And it comes to the topic of this week, which is sacred, which is the acronym for stillness, because of the pause, is a complete stillness, allowing conformity, reflections, endurance, and determination. So I'll pop that into the chat so that we can reflect on. Thank you.
thank you, Al. As you said that peace, I'm like, the power of the peace, like just the P and peace, and then, just all those P's. I love it. I'm reflecting on the acronym and on those P words, the pause. I know, I thought about that too, Mary Jane. Give P's a chance.
I couldn't resist. It was just
It was, it's just like, I absolutely love it.
oh yes. Well, as long as we can still laugh, that is the key. And it really can be the best medicine, can it not?
Yes, I can.
It's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
really
I
nice.
love this conversation today, and Jen, do you think might be a good opportunity to move into the meditation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it was a wonderful conversation. Begin by allowing yourself to arrive just as you are. There's nothing to fix, nothing to change. Gently bring your awareness to your body, noticing where you are seated, feeling the support beneath you. And slowly begin to notice your breath without changing it, simply observing. The natural inhale and the natural exhale. And here we introduce something simple yet powerful, the pause. And as you breathe in, allow the inhale to gently fill you. And at the top of the breath, just pause. Not forcing, not holding with tension, just a soft, conscious pause. And then exhale, letting the breath release naturally. And at the bottom of the exhale, again, a pause, a moment of stillness, a moment of nothing to do. Continue in this way. Inhale, pause. Exhale, pause. Let the pause be gentle, almost like a resting place. And as you begin to settle here, notice that this pause is not empty. It is alive with awareness. This is an active space, a space where you are present, awake, and choosing to be here, to be in the pause. Now begin to expand this awareness beyond the breath and notice your thoughts. Notice your thoughts as they arise, and instead of following them, see if you can pause just for a moment, not pushing them away, not engaging, simply pausing. A space between the thought and your response to it. And in that space, there's freedom. Notice any sensations in the body, any emotions that may be present. And again, introduce a pause. Not reacting, not needing to move away, just allowing and pausing. The pause is not passive. It is a conscious action, a choosing to be with what is here without immediately responding. And within the pause, something begins to shift. The breath softens, the body settles, the mind becomes a little bit more spacious. And you may begin to notice, to sense, even if just slightly, that you are not your immediate reaction. You are the awareness that notices. You are the one who can pause. Rest here for a few more breaths. Inhale, pause. Exhale, pause. Let this rhythm anchor you. Begin to recognize that this pause, this space is always available to you. In a conversation, in a moment of stress, in the space before a word is spoken. Even one breath, even one pause can open the door to a different choice, a more intentional response, a more grounded way of being. And as we begin to close, allow your breath to return to its natural rhythm. Gently bring awareness back to your body, the space around you, and carry this with you, the knowing that the pause is always here, a quiet, powerful place where awareness lives and where choice begins. Tonka was wholeheartedly agreeing, I think, today. Thank you
love it.
thank you for joining us today, everyone. Please take a moment to connect with us during the week. We'd love to hear from you. Our next presentation, or next, we'll be back next week. Our next workshop is May 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
And our next, for Spirit-Born Imaginings, and our next 4-part series with Darlene is it March 28th? I mean, May 28th?
I was going to say, what? Yes, May 28th.
May 28th, thank you. May 28th for 4 Thursday nights, it's Thursday this time. Two, we have 1 week off and then 2 more. So that will be coming up. this recording will be on our YouTube channel. If you decide you'd like to go on and comment or like and share, we'd appreciate it. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And yes, have a week ahead and a weekend filled with many blessings. And thank you.
Many blessings to you all.